Facebook.com/Talk El Paso. It's 4 p.m. Mountain Time, and that means it's time to talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days. Facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter @Talk El Paso, or Twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of ways we're up, a lot of ways you can chime in, see what we got going on, and just comment if you dare. Amber Bonda setting the example there, kind of with a rock on. Appreciate that. And of course, we have those phone lines open because, oh, yeah, it's Friday. That's okay. I'm going to call it one of our most important days of the week on this program anyway, when we open the floodgates and take on all of your comments, questions, concerns, gripes, gripes, whatever you want to do, particularly on this Cinco de Mayo, which, yes, is not Mexican Independence Day, and yet there are going to be a lot of people independing themselves, that's not a word, from their liver health today, because that's what this has definitely become. But otherwise, if you are wanting to talk about the many things that are affecting us in the borderland and beyond, we're certainly here for it. And we'll have those phone lines open both hours of the show. So if you want to go ahead and get on that line, just note that you might be ever so slightly well, you have to wait on the line for a minute. Might take it for a minute for us to get to you, but just stay on the line if you're wanting to be on the line. That number, of course, is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Now, there is a lot going on in, around, about, involving, and definitely responding to the community here right now. As soon as I can get some of these things to pop back up, as my computer is also having a lot of very many thoughts today, apparently. Is also Robbie Flores chiming in with the wave, and hello to you as well. So again, whatever works best for you, wherever you're able to see the show, comment on it, add your 2 cents is the right place for you to be as we continue our mission to have live local talk radio in the borderland, and of course generally talk about the things that affect us here. But of course, it's opened up further. That's part of that whole floodgates thing, talking about the many things. A couple of things that come to mind, at least one that I do want to mention at this point here, is about what is going on with some of those. I mean, we've had a whole lot of different things being mentioned as we're getting closer to that red letter May 11th day, when there is a lot, possibly, very likely. I don't have any reason to believe at this point that there will not be some changes coming when it comes to Title 42, border security, immigration, at the very least. I guess both sides of the response and the issues involving it, that there goes active duty troops. So I may have previously said National Guard, but no, these are going to be active duty troops. So I guess technically they could be like activated, but in any case, the actual situation we're going to be seeing there is that they are going to be primarily being actually deployed, stationed in El Paso and then deployed to other parts of it along the entire Texas area. And so this was coming as there was visits around the area that, then maybe not through ours, but border sector in general, by the Department of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, as he was saying, quote, that federal authorities face, quote, extremely challenging circumstances, noting surge of Venezuelan migrants through South Texas, according to our news partners over at KFOX 14, and that on Thursday at the specifically out of our area, 4,000 of the 6,000 migrants in Border Patrol custody in Texas's Rio Grande Valley were Venezuelan. So there was, more policies being announced, including, the plan to finalize a new one that would make it extremely difficult for migrants to seek asylum if they pass through another country like Mexico on their way to the U.S. border. Mayorkas saying, quote, the situation on the border is a very serious one, a very challenging one, and a very difficult one. And so specifically on the Border Patrol side of things, Border Patrol Chief Raul Ortiz said that 1,500 active duty troops will be coming to El Paso right here. There were some questions about how that would be. We were kind of anticipating that it would go across the entire southern border, but and there are already actually 2,500 National Guard troops already positioned across the border. And so El Paso was specifically chosen because it has been a busy corridor for illegal crossings over the last 6 months. So, quoting him from directly here again, Border Patrol Chief Ortiz, the additional 1,500 personnel that are going to be allocated over the next few weeks will be based in El Paso. But what that will allow me to do, rather, is to do is resources that I've been dedicating to El Paso because it has a much busier place over the last 6 months. I'm going to be able to reallocate those to some other sectors that require some additional capacity. So that's one of the things that I definitely wanted to mention right off the top as we get into the coverage and the many things we'll be talking about today. And Mayorkas, and other parts of the Rio Grande Valley. So this is okay, I'm going to call this shot right now. This is going to be one of our major topics in the next week. Not that immigration, border security, the related issues are ever far from mind in our area, and the responses, issues. I mean, it's again, even just this level of response. Maybe not exactly this level, but I mean, there have been interviews being done by our mayor and other elected officials on national news media that, let's just say that this frequency has been about in the last 6 months, definitely the second time in about a year. So never far from mind, though it seems to be coming up a whole lot more lately. Anyway, let's get those phone lines now. Again, that number to call is 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. And again, just as a note, if you call in, you might be on hold for a minute, but just stay on the line because you might get popped up live even before you greet it. You never know. So we do have Raul in the Northeast on the line with us right now. Raul, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Andrew. Well, this immigration, it's a problem, and it's nothing new. It's been going on for a long, long time.
Mm-hmm.
The wall that Trump promised to build didn't keep them from coming in. And it's a whipping horse that the Republicans and the right use every election, along with crime. Now, these are all things that, again, there's nothing new about it. There's always been crime in America. Actually, there's less overall compared to decades in the past, although we've had an uptick in the recent past. And then again, we did have a pandemic. We weren't quite counting on that, and so that was kind of unique, pretty unprecedented.
Sure.
And then an attack on the Capitol, planned and executed by the losing president. Now, this week, big news, 4 of the proud pendejo boys were convicted of seditious conspiracy. Now, this is a pretty big charge. They'll send you to jail for 20 years, just that charge, okay? And this Enrique Tario character, what a pendejo you got there, what an idiot, This guy's lawyer says that it was Trump who's responsible for this, for getting them to go there. Now, of course, these guys are responsible for doing an attack, but they were part of a force marshaled and put in play by Donald Trump and his people. And so he's going to pay for this now. He's finally met an individual who has more money than he does and has more lawyers than he does, and his name is Uncle Sam. So he's got Uncle Sam breathing down his neck now for all his crimes. And I am so glad that the wheels of justice, which are very slow to turn, are finally in gear, and they're chewing up this criminal. And for the Republican Party to stay with this guy who they think is qualified and deserves to be the president again is the height of lunacy and cult-like behavior.
Okay, I guess I'm not surprised that you're talking about this, even if I also wasn't surprised that, the Proud Boys you're talking about there. And just as a note, we don't have specific policies against it. Just because swear words are or close enough to them are in Spanish doesn't mean that they're going to make that perfectly clear. We have had some complaints about that in the past, and that's not going to be allowable on here. I haven't articulated it fully perfectly here, but just profanity is based on community standards, and as this is a majority Hispanic community, of which that being native to have people outside of that speak Spanish pretty well around here, just know that just changing the word that you want to say that wouldn't be allowed in English by the FCC to another language is particularly Spanish ain't going to work. But on the actual points you're making there, when it comes to the Proud Boy cases, yeah, they are facing serious time for not just saying, well, I showed up for a rally to do something, but for having specific plans. Which, I mean, you do the crime, you should do the time. And I'm not at all surprised that they implicated the former president in saying that, well, he told us to. Now, I still stand beside what I've always said about it, that people in high positions of power, particularly those with a large platform, I mean, if you were just to say, like, man, I hope someone punches that guy, and then the guy gets punched, and say, like, well, I didn't tell anyone to. I mean, yeah, come on, that's not reasonable. Whether or not there was actually the planning intent of it, I think that's going to be another case. I mean, yes, there is the now actual federal investigation, law enforcement investigation into January 6th, and it was handed over, of course, by the January 6th committee, but we haven't heard much from them on those specific points here. These have been other criminal cases that potentially could go into that evidence, but we won't know until there is actually like a presentation before a grand jury, indictments on these types of issues. I get that you're still giddy about the possibility of the former president being gone from public life. I mean, come on, that's pretty much the goal that you and a lot of others have when it comes to this, and it may or may not happen. I don't have a crystal ball when it comes to this, but trying to pinpoint anything besides his own case on this, including some of the other ones that have gone on that you've been having more than a little bit of glee about as well. I don't know if that's the real move in that case, because until it comes to the actual case itself against the former president, if it materializes, comes forth, goes towards indictments, and moves through the legal process, which has been fairly ponderous and it's moving, I'll agree with you on that limited point, then we'll see. But in the meantime, it's so much, I wonder what the rain's going to be like on 2 Thursdays from now. Your guess is as good as mine, because what's actually going on behind the scenes is the most important part of it. So appreciate the point in the call for what it's worth. And yeah, the local issues are still going to predominate throughout the rest of the week, as we do. But in the meantime, this is Friday, and we do open up these floodgates, and I call this airstrike on myself each and every week, because I seem to enjoy it. Anyway, let's go ahead and get to that next break right now. Coming out of this break, we got those phone lines open. If you want to add your 2 cents, make your call, add your perspective to the discussion or other issues, because, yeah, as long as you keep it clean, so just make that perfectly clear, you can do so, and we'll continue doing that throughout both hours of this program. It is Free for All Friday. That's what we call it. That's what we do, and that's what we seem to enjoy. I mean, y'all around here in any case. So let's go ahead and take that break. 915-544-5876, 544 KTSM is the number to call. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
An accident in the Lower Valley on Loop 375 northbound is blocking the Zaragoza exit. Exit 40A is closed right now because of that crash. I-10 eastbound is slow. Trans-Mountain to the Patriot, 5-minute delays. 7-minute delays. I-10 westbound from McRae over to the 54 Patriot. And the 54 south is slow from McCombs to Trans Mountain. It's a 10-minute delay. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
How could $1,000 change your life?
I could buy eggs.
Then listen for inflation compensation. Your chance to win $1,000 to combat high prices.
Honey, we're going to have eggs.
Yes! It's excellent. Be listening for your chance to win $1,000 with inflation compensation.
Listen for your chance to win $1,000 every hour, 9A through 5P, with the inflation compensation on News Radio 690 AM. Brought to you by Charlie Clark Nissan and Charlie Clark Infinity of El Paso.
Orale!
This report is sponsored by the Tudor Dixon Podcast.
Coming up on the next episode of the Tudor Dixon Podcast, Kyle Olson joins the show to talk about the madness at Michigan State University. Banned words? Are our kids too sensitive? Be sure to catch new episodes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
No, not now. That sounds like it's going to cost you.
I know what to do. I'm going to CashNetUSA.com. I can apply in minutes, get an instant decision, and if approved, I could have the money in my account as soon as the same business day.
When you need money fast, be the hero. Go to CashNetUSA.com to apply for the money you need now. The exact timing as to when your loan funds will be available will be determined by your banking institution.
A catalytic converter is an important component of your car's exhaust system. They can cost several $1,000s to replace. Cats can be removed in under a minute and have a high scrap value. Keep your vehicle safe from cat burglars. Park in well-lit areas. Install a protective device. Have your VIN number etched onto your catalytic converter. It's a total catastrophe. If your catalytic converter is stolen, lock it down. Learn more at lockitdowntx.com. Brought to you by the Insurance Council of Texas and the Motor Vehicle Crime Prevention Authority.
At El Paso Electric, we're working to meet our goal of providing 100% carbon-free energy by 2045. By next year, we'll double our renewable energy resources. In 2 years, we'll more than triple it. In 3 years, our solar output will increase almost 8 times. We're already 50% carbon-free in 2023, but there's more work to do. Because a clean energy future is more than a goal. It's a reality we're working towards every day. Visit epelectric.com/clean energy to see our plan.
Finding great people to hire can be like trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Their powerful matching technology delivers so many qualified candidates. It's like finding a needle in a needle stack. In fact, 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. For less hay and more needles, head to ZipRecruiter.
And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free. At ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages. We're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of people dropping those likes and reacts already because, as Willie Jenkins puts it, free for all Friday, so let the frolicking proceed. That's one way to put it. As long as I guess you can still listen or tune in, however works for you there. As we also have, again, dropping those likes and reacts, Bernadette Bandicoot, Flaco Jimenez, Robbie Flores, Monica Cervantes, James Holmes, and Amber Banda, and a lot of other commentary coming in. So, and happy Freak Show Friday, Eric Arnold Rathlow saying also Cinco de Mayo, which, okay, this keeps coming up, so I feel the need to at least mention it a bit. Yeah, it's not Mexican Independence Day. That's I can say it right today. 16 de septiembre, but I mean, it's a battle mostly about the French invasion of Mexico, which was a thing not often taught in U.S. classes because it was also going on like in the midst of the U.S. Civil War. So it would be kind of like if everyone across other countries celebrated like the Battle of Yorktown. Like, sure, a significant enough one, fight for liberty and freedom from oppression and all of that, but it's kind of well, the people I know from Mexico kind of be like, wait, why is everyone drunk on this day? This doesn't make sense, but maybe I'm just preaching to the choir there. Anyway, let's go ahead and get back to those phone lines now. Again, full up at the moment, but as will probably be all today. But if you want to squeeze in, particularly when one call ends, another line becomes available, et cetera, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. We do have James in Las Cruces on the line with us right now. James, thanks for joining us.
Hi. I just had a quick little comment for Raul.
Mm-hmm.
The wall that Donald Trump built was working just fine, but when the gates are open, like they are on the 375 loop around Yarborough area, and they're letting them through, then yeah, the wall doesn't work anymore. Then I just drove by and saw 2 separate locations where they're standing there at those gates on the wall, and they're letting them through.
Okay. We've heard similar things, but interesting to get your perspective directly on that, so do appreciate it.
Okay. All right. That's all I got to say.
All right. Fair enough. Well, thanks for the point in the call. You have a good one there.
Yeah, thanks. You too. Bye.
All right. So, I mean, I've been on this position a lot. I mean, I know that it was particularly during the preceding presidential campaign, 2016, let's just call it that. During that time frame, I mean, build the wall was a pervasive and persuasive enough for some anyway, political call to action, and it kind of continued to be during the following presidential campaign. But my position has always been that technology, I mean, sure, a wall could be built technologically. I mean, it is a technology, but that a full suite of it to truly like have a better handle on it is necessary, because I think there's a lot of people think like, yeah, just build the wall and that's all we need. But and like allusions to, of course, the Great Wall of China and stuff like that, of which always came up to me that if you don't have the support of the infrastructure, it doesn't work out, as was, I think, the mildly apocryphal story, but I think it's borne out by actual history, that the Mongols came through the Great Wall of China through on unguarded gates. So my contention has always been that you need to have the personnel to support that, whatever the infrastructure is, and frankly, information is the most important thing, because if you just got the wall and no one like monitoring it, paying attention to it, responding to it, then you're just going to have people either climbing over it, going through it, taking it down in some like less sparsely populated areas, as has been a thing. Willie Jenkins mentioning that the Sunland Park property is part of someone's private property, where that wall is. Yeah, that was the the We Build the Wall folks, who I want to say, I mean, there has been several indictments that came down with that. I want to say that the former like major head of it, Brian Colfidge, if I'm not too mistaken, has faced serious consequences. Of course, another one, of which I'm blanking on it'll come to me in a minute, was pardoned by the end of the last administration. So, I mean, spend your money how you want, just spend it wisely, as I always suggest. Anyway, let's go back to the phone lines now, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We do have Andrew on the west side of the line with us right now. Andrew, thanks for joining us.
Yes, thank you very much.
What's on your mind?
These active duty troops that are being sent to the border area.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that is not the job of the United States military. It is not the job to babysit these individuals or to process them into the country.
I mean, yeah, they're being provided for support services, I guess, is the as not a direct quote, but a pretty much the best description I can give simply to what they'll be doing. They won't be doing law enforcement, as they are not sworn officers, and you'll start getting into like, yeah, those whole posse comitatus type of issues pretty quickly if they were to be out in any kind of like major force within the continental United or any part of the United States territory. So them doing these stuff to allow for there to be more of the law enforcement activities taking place. I mean, I guess that's better than not, even if you're totally right as well that this is not exactly what they're supposed to be used for. Willie Jenkins mentioning a National Guard, which, again, according to some of the reporting on this, is also a part of what has already been seeing deployments.
Okay, well, National Guard deployed by the governor. Okay, that they are allowed law enforcement functions. The only one of the six armed forces that can engage in law enforcement is the Coast Guard. Okay, I say six because now we have the Space Force.
Right, of course. Mm-hmm.
Yes, but like I said, this is not the job of the United States Army or any of the other branches of the military, of the active duty military.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen, I guess, similar-ish efforts over both previous state administrations and, of course, national administrations. There was the actual, like, full-on deployment to build border barriers during the Trump administration. I want to say there have been some of that during, like, there was also the hiring ramp, but I might be conflating a little bit both the Bush and then Obama administration. And yeah, of course, was in the state of Texas. I want to say I remember like Rick Perry back in that day doing some things with having National Guard troopers do like monitoring, watching cameras, doing some of that back end support type of things. When it came to National Guard, though, I definitely know that has happened and was very much a feature of under, of course, Governor Greg Abbott, the Operation Lone Star of them specifically wanting to enforce the whole state level trespassing charges.
Right. Of course. Well, they trespassing and other crimes that can fall under the state of Texas.
Sure,
now,
absolutely.
People say that walls don't work. Well, let me tell you. Okay, twice in the last 20 years, twice in a 10-year period before that stretch of fence went up over on Paisano and Executive. People were running across that stretch of Paisano right there, and twice I nearly collided into those guys, and I was doing less than 35 miles an hour in that stretch, and people were just coming out of nowhere in the dark, and I purposely set my speed way below the speed limit there. And still people were popping out. They were at one time even putting objects in the street, sofas. If you can imagine that.
But I can't imagine it, though. I mean, this is before my time to absolutely date myself, at the very least, when I was, I think pretty much in my entire lifetime, there has been a border barrier of some kind, which is why always the local relationship when it comes to these type of national conversations has always been a bit different because, there's been maybe not a big, beautiful wall, quote unquote, but border barriers of some kind going back to, when Sylvester Reyes was in Border Patrol before he became an elected official even. So I'm pretty sure that's before most of my life, definitely before most of my lifetime. But in any case, what I'd be curious to know, actually, from your perspective, having encountered some of that at that point, was it all basically like the traffic headed north, or was there also some going south? Because basically the way it's been described to me by those that were like alive and adults during that point of time is that it was not solely a northern movement. There would be sometimes people, using that as a way to abscond to Mexico, among other things.
Well, the encounters I had, these were pedestrians that were shooting north.
Okay. All right. I mean, that makes a level of sense, but let's just say that, you got to go also back to that era of why. I mean, I've had people who have moved to town that talk about why is it that like iron bars on windows are like almost a architectural statement at this point, because it was for so long, like back in I remember my grandmother talking about this when they had them installed in their house back in the 50s, 60s, something like that, because they were worried about property crimes that were happening, because there would be sometimes individuals that would commit a crime, and then go back to evade, local law enforcement, that kind of thing. So I was aware of that being a circumstance as well, leading to the decisions to see the local border barriers, among other things.
Yes, well, as for bars, that happened to my neighbor when we used to live in central El Paso. When I lived in central El Paso with my parents, yes, it happened to my neighbors. And first thing they did after that was put up bars on their windows. Yeah, and oh, by the way, when the police happened to have caught those individuals, and they were undocumented immigrants from Mexico. I do remember that.
Yeah, I mean, basically, the way the circumstance was described to me as not like immigration was not their focus. It was basically taking advantage of national borders in order to evade punishment for crimes, what it came down to. But that's again a previous era, and part of the reason, at least was described, and I've read some on, of why this existed at that point in time. Though we're in a very different set of eras now. I mean, at that point in time, I don't think anyone would have anticipated the way as the asylum conversation has changed to this point in time.
Well, yes. Now, speaking of the immigration issue, okay, and I promise I will not be cruel or anything like that, or use any FCC prohibited speech.
Please, thank you.
In the words of my mom, of my late mom, Raúl, eres un sabelo todo, entiéndelo nada. Immigration,
Fair enough.
It's been a problem for many, many years, but not to the extent that is occurring during this administration and this open door policy.
I mean, you have to, I think Tritosek over in the comments over in the YouTube talking about historical context during the Mexican Revolution. Many Yaqui Indians fled Sonora to Arizona to escape Porfirio Diaz's army. I mean, we have seen, historically speaking, there be serious moments of major movements even in and around our region. I think you really have to go back to, and I've been talking with some local historians, or some have been posting about this, they'd have to go back to like the Mexican Revolution and those type of situations to see this amount of movement of people towards this order of magnitude. So sure, this has happened before, but not to call this, it's kind of like saying there was a meteorite that hit during the dinosaurs. Why should we worry about another one coming? Sure, it's happened before, but doesn't mean it was a good thing then, or a pleasant, nice thing to have happen back then either.
Well, I'm sure the people of Columbus, New Mexico, wouldn't appreciate history repeating itself when Pancho Villa crossed there and raided the town. And of course, there was an instance when you could go back and forth the border. I mean, Pancho Villa and what's his name, Zapata, they used to go shop at the Popular.
Yep.
They didn't have to show any green cards. They could cross anytime they wanted.
Yeah, and it wasn't until they started getting frisky with the law and or actually literally attacking the United States, as was, I think we just had the anniversary of that within the last couple of months ago as well, around that time of year, I do believe, that, yeah, that was an armed incursion and attack specifically on the United States because, I mean, there was some picking of sides that was starting to go on within the national administrations at that point in time, but we're getting into history show territory there. But yeah, let's just say that the circumstances then are very different than they were now, particularly with that attack, the attack on Columbus, New Mexico. But that also, well, things have certainly changed. I mean, some of the origins of the Border Patrol, which is, of course, now almost entirely focused on immigration these days, but also does have its mission towards other kinds of smuggling, mostly in terms of illicit drugs. Had some conversations, okay, to delve one more second back into history show territory, that it had its origins basically in the Prohibition era when it was dealt with, the rum running and liquor smuggling that happened at that point. So even its mission has changed from that point in time.
Correct. Well, and one last thing, and I'll
Sure.
let somebody else get on. I've taken too much time. But anyway, this is just a taste of what we're going to see once Title 42 ends and these people get restless. I mean, these people, you don't know who's coming in. Wait till people start seeing more burglaries happening during the nighttime of these businesses and the homes and residents in the surrounding area. Then we'll see the city requesting more action from the federal government. Anyway, I turn the mic over to you. You have a good weekend.
Yeah, sure thing. Thanks for the point in the call. Do appreciate it.
Take care.
With that, let's go ahead and I keep blowing up the clock. Let's go ahead and jump on that next break right now. I will say this just briefly on that last point then, that I mean, the law enforcement response, state, local, and federal, we have seen so far as bad, somewhat different, maybe kind of complementary, but there have been different aspects that have been focused on it. That much is very much apparent. Has been very focused on kind of keeping the situation in hand and to an extent contained. I mean, we've seen it primarily in South Central El Paso so far, even if we're looking at estimates of there being, I think, like 2,500, maybe 3,000 upwards. I've seen at most like 5,000 estimates of in our immediate area, particularly in and around, Sacred Heart Church, Segundo Barrio in general. So haven't heard of any serious situations, anything along those lines as of this point. I'll just say it that way. But I think if not managed very carefully and concertedly and consciously, that, people left without a recourse can get desperate. So managing this, however it turns out, very carefully has definitely to be the focus there. Let's go ahead and take that next break right now. Coming out of this break, we'll go ahead and get to more calls on the line because, hey, it's Free for All Friday, so we're getting into stuff. So if you want to get on that line, remember that phone number, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, everyone. This is Robert Olguin with your KFOX 14 News Update. 3 different organizations are teaming up to provide access to clinical health care to migrants who are living on El Paso streets. The collaboration is between Doctors of the World, USA, Texas Tech University Health Sciences Center, El Paso, and the Annunciation House. At a news conference, officials said there are about 2,500 migrants on the streets of El Paso currently. Officials say that the healthcare services are limited at this time and that they only have capacity for about 10 visits per week, but they're hoping to expand that. Meantime, the city of El Paso will get more than $12 million in federal funding that'll go toward emergency food and shelter for the migrants. Congresswoman Veronica Escobar made that announcement today. The money is coming from the Emergency Food and Shelter Program. El Paso is among 35 local governments that are getting a total of $300 million in federal funding. This has been your KFOX 14 News Update. I'm Robert Olguin.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
An accident in the lower valley on Loop 375 northbound is blocking the Zaragoza exit. Exit 40A is closed right now because of that crash. I-10 eastbound is slow, transmountain to the Patriot, 5-minute delays. 7-minute delays, I-10 westbound from McRae over to the 54 Patriot. And the 54 south is slow from McCombs to Trans Mountain, it's a 10-minute delay. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Montgomery. Nice one as we go into our Friday night. Once the sun goes down, we're going to see temperatures drop overnight into the 40s to 50s for your Saturday morning. So also a nice start for our Saturday morning. Partly cloudy, breezy, highs around 87 for tomorrow. We'll see mostly sunny skies, just breezy conditions for our Sunday, a little hotter with high around 89 degrees. From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Montgomery.
This report is sponsored by Blindster.com.
Hi, I'm Kyle at Blindster.com. Shopping for new blinds? At Blindster, we offer over 50 different blinds, shades, and shutters at low prices, custom made for your windows, and shipping is free. Shop at home and order 10 free samples of any product before you buy. Blindster.com.
Paid for by government.com. Did you hear? A recent stash of $5 gold Liberty coins from the 1800s has been found. These gorgeous gold coins are as bright and shiny as the day they were struck in the late 1800s, and less than 100 of these gold coins are available. Coin experts are calling this gold find an incredible opportunity. Call 1-800-888-7618, and you're guaranteed a $5 gold Liberty coin minted by the U.S. Mint in the 1800s, but with extremely limited availability. You must call now. These gold Liberty coins from the 1800s are still in uncirculated condition. That's history you can hold in your hand. To learn more, call 1-800-888-7618. Call now and you'll receive a free American Coin Collector's bonus package, a $40 value, free with every order. Call 1-800-888-7618 now to secure your $5 gold Liberty coins dated from the 1800s before they sell out. That's 1-800-888-7618.
Caring for a loved one takes emotional, physical, and mental strength. When you're giving your all, who's supporting your needs as a caregiver? Find resources at texascaregivers.org. Brought to you by Texas Health and Human Services.
This week on Red Pilled America, should artificial intelligence be stopped? To find the answer, we speak to an AI expert who tells us where AI is going. Listen to Red Pilled America on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere you get podcasts. That's Red Pilled America.
This report is sponsored by Red Pilled America.
Freedom of speech lives here.
To me, freedom of speech is being able to say anything you want.
El Paso's News Radio, 690 KTSM. News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so. A lot of ways to interact with the show, particularly since it's, well, Friday, and Free for All Friday means we're taking those comments and calls throughout both hours of the program, rounding the bend, just past the bottom of the hour of the first one, but we got another better part of half an hour and a half to go, so we'll keep on cranking. So keep that number handy. Phone lines are full up at the moment, but 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM, and a lot of different points, things coming in. John Browson, among other things, saying that population increase in the Montana Vista area and Horizon took place during the early 2000s because of excessive murders in Juarez that never returned. I know there was some repopulation. I mean, some people moving out during particularly the height of some of that going on. That was a little bit more to my awareness, basically when I was like in middle and high school, which is part of the reason that I didn't spend nearly as much time in Juarez, barely any at all, than previous, even just generations of high schoolers and people just the generation before me did. So, I mean, things were definitely of a dicey nature at certain points, and people made decisions. I mean, there were businesses that relocated. Don't want to call it any specifically because I don't want to be incorrect about it, but some that popped up on this side after deciding to no longer wanting to be involved in that. So, I mean, there have been other movements, though. I'm going to call that one different than, again, the situations we've seen both currently and in just the past year. Let's put it that way. Anyway, let's go back to those phone lines now. 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We do have Eric on the east side here with us right now. Eric, thanks for joining us.
Hello there. Throughout the week, I've been referencing numbers in regards to Prop K.
Sure.
Between 2030 and 2045, that the energy cost savings from implementing, according to the city study, would save $154
$0.8 million in energy cost savings,
and
which
you're
would cover the $155 million that the city said that it would cost to implement.
right. And actually, I have a question about that. But I want to make sure we're on the same page here. I've been primarily referencing the year-out energy study that the city of El Paso has listed over on the, if you look for the proposed charter amendments and specifically under the financial impact tab of that, they have the year-out energy study on it, primarily the city has been putting out primarily the cost. Is that the same information you are referencing on, therefore, the savings?
Yes, the
Okay.
year-out study is the city's study.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. So yesterday I was able to inform you that the $50 million or the energy and efficiency and the $50 million that would have cost to implement that is included in the $155 million total, which you were asking about.
Yeah, and that's there's two parts they talk about this, and for anyone playing along at home, see if I can get that link up here shortly, but for those that don't have it, elpasotexas.gov/ep-charter/financial-impact. I think if you just go to the main part for the proposed charter amendments, elpasotexas.gov/ep-charter. That's a simpler link to put out there for you all. And so specifically looking on when it comes to that amount, there's a whole lot of different acronyms that come into this, but the two primary ones that I think we're talking about there's the Energy Savings Performance Contracting, ESPC, and then there's the Energy Services Company, ESCO, that they talk about. If there were to be this essentially just efficiency be done there, they can forecast about a 30% reduction in energy costs, and therefore kind of leveraging that almost as a financial instrument through that, again, ESPC and then ESCO, in order to see greater funding and financing available for some of these infrastructure solar scale projects, right?
Yes, and it's important to note that those savings will be seen within the first few years of Prop K passing.
So
according to the study.
Yeah, so on page 4 of the study, right before the second to last paragraph, they talk about that, for instance, if the city were to engage in an ESPC project with a 15-year finance term, assuming no escalation in utility rates or outside grants or incentives, the city would self-fund approximately $50 million in energy and water efficiency improvements without needing to tap into capital budgets. So I guess I'm not seeing that part as necessarily a savings. I mean, it would be a savings if they are using less of it, but basically the proposal here is to then turn that around and put that into these other infrastructure projects, primarily solar, et cetera, further efficiencies, things like that.
Yeah, well, it's savings because without that, our energy bills would be 30% higher. So if Prop K doesn't pass or that energy and efficiency part isn't implemented, we're going to be paying 30% more on energy. So that is, in fact, savings.
I mean, sure, it is savings, but they're talking about not just like banking that, they're talking about leveraging that specifically in order to put it into as they go into the next part of it. So I'm referencing the bottom of page 4, the last paragraph on page 4, saying, in addition to efficiency, the city can explore the electrification of city facilities and elimination of fossil fuel-based energy sources to further support these climate objectives. So maybe I'm taking it wrong way as it being just like because they do put in that there is not they make it very clear that they costs considered within the analysis of the charter amendments is not including the potential cost for the purchase of El Paso Electric, et cetera. So I was taking this as just the that $150 million of costs total and not necessarily other parts of it. They also do mention that again on the financial impact part of the elpasotexas.gov/EP charter, they mentioned they have an explicit list of stuff that they do not consider or not take into account, including infrastructure upgrades and investments or other green conservation methods, but that are not as part of Prop K, such as water conservation, stormwater management, indoor air quality, and materials waste reduction.
Yeah, on that financial impact little spreadsheet that they shared, the $50 million is the energy and efficiency part of it. It's labeled there. That's $50 million of that 155 total. And when you look at the savings of that 30% plus the 80% of the solar panels, you get an annual savings of $10.32 million produced by efficiency and the solar panels, and that we're not going to be paying El Paso Electric per year. So that's 2030. So after 2030, according to that year out study, we're going to be saving $10.32 million that we would otherwise be paying in energy costs. And between 2030 and 2045, that's 15 years, 15 times that 10.32 produces that $154.8 million that we would otherwise be paying El Paso Electric, but instead we are getting it from the sun and the efficiency. So you could see that 154 million covers that 155 million that's referenced in that financial impact spreadsheet that the year out study is connected to. Do you see that?
Okay, wait, sorry. Which, I was maybe looking at a different part of it. Which page was that again that you were referencing?
The 80% produced by solar panel is the next section after the efficiency part.
Okay,
it
so
says
that's
that we're going to be able to
that's the
achieve
top
that
of page 4. Okay.
80% offset, which would produce an extra $6.72 million worth of energy, which we would otherwise be paying El Paso Electric for. Now, if we combine that 6.72 million produced by that 80% offset referenced in that study, we get a total of $10.32 million in annual that we would be paying in energy. And when we multiply that 10.32 by the 15 between the years of 2030 and 2045, we get $154.8 million in total energy costs that we would be paying El Paso Electric, which covers that $155 million, which covers all the studies in that spreadsheet and the infrastructure upgrades, part of the efficiency upgrades, and the solar panel, installing the solar panels to produce those savings, which, by the way, is going to produce thousands of jobs, in regards to installing the solar panels and increasing the efficiency. And that produces, more economic growth that helps our small businesses. More people are going to be spending. That brings more tax revenue through those measures, through that spending. There's a multiplier effect where we can see jobs created, economic growth, and it being self-financing. The city can produce jobs, economic growth, and it could all be financed by itself plus some.
I guess the part that I'm... Sorry, go ahead.
If you look at the year out study and crunch the numbers.
Okay, so I guess the part that I'm missing when it comes to it is, I mean, it doesn't really list what it would cost in order to reach the energy efficiency. It's just basically saying if this could be done, if it could be done. I mean, basically saying that the EPA estimates that roughly 30% of energy consumed in building is wasted and unnecessary. So it's basically they assume that if 30% of the current energy consumed by city facilities can be identified and eliminated through this process. So there are some assumptions still even in there about particularly that $50 million that would then go forward to finance the rest of this. And there are some assumptions when it comes to the renewable energy part of it. I mean, they have a varying level of cost of being about $90 million to actually do the installation of the, again, utility scale solar photovoltaics, but that they have basically in place the Inflation Reduction Act as being a 25% cost reduction to bring that down to closer to $67.5 million. So, I mean, there are some things that are laid out. I'm not 100% on with you on the actual amount of money that would be saved on that, except for maybe through the elimination of the electricity part of the bill. So, I mean, it could be feasible. I see that part of it, but I guess kind of what comes down to for me.
If you don't mind.
Sure, go ahead.
You just read the part of the study that specifically says that 80% of the energy the city consumes can be offset through solar panels. It then details the amount of money, the 90 million you just referenced, that it would require to do that 80% offset.
Right.
So that's where the city study says that 80% offset can be done through solar panels through that $90 million investment. So that's that 80% offset. They're saying that that offset can be done through the solar panels, which is what produces that extra $6.72 million in annual energy savings, which combined with the efficiency produces an annual 10.32 million. You reference the specific part of the study that says 80% of the energy can be offset by solar panels for a specific amount of money. That $90 million, which $25 million is coming from the federal government. That's important to note, just so you could see that there's federal money that's going to be contributing to our economic growth and job creation here in the city as part of Prop K. Just to get the total impact. Not, but that 80% offset is referenced in that study, where that extra 6.72 annual $1 million in annual energy costs that we would otherwise be paying the city. It's covered right there, and I outlined it pretty well. And you even referenced the specific parts that say that 80% offset can happen. Policy analysis. You got to do the math. I've gathered from our conversations that you didn't even crunch these numbers. And right now you're kind of, expressing that you aren't even aware that specific study says that 80% of our energy costs can be offset by that $90 million investment.
I believe that's the part I just read. So I think we're getting in one of those situations where we're agreeing more than we're not, but you're maybe not happy about the way I'm saying it. So let's go to the core conclusion that we're trying to come up with that with this study and this information on it, you said yourself that you don't expect Prop K to actually end up passing. Again, we won't know that for sure until we get to, let's say Sunday, once we actually end up getting passed and seeing the initial or final election voting results, which we would hopefully have by, maybe Monday. Let's hopefully say we got it by Monday in hand. That we won't know that for sure, but that this information, these type of initiatives, as much as they are certainly a part of Proposition K, and certainly, their proponents want it to go through entirely, that this would not be something that couldn't be done on its own, I guess is what I've been coming down to.
Yeah, there's not going to be any demand for it to be done on its own. When you claim to care about saving money, the city is saving money and fiscal responsibility. You didn't look at the study and do the math to see what type of savings this type of investment would do. There's not going to be any demand if you're not even looking at the cost savings that are written into Prop K and the studies and the studies on it. I've mentioned this in the past, that there's a lot of intellectual dishonesty involved in any type of solar initiatives, or, conservatives have these biases because, they think man-made climate change isn't real, and they think all spending is bad and can never produce savings. The savings are right there in that study, and even when that study presents them to you, you weren't even aware of them.
Okay, you're saying I'm not aware of the parts that I was literally just quoting. Okay, let's take a step back here for another second and say that, with these numbers in the study, there's two critical pieces of information that are missing. And again, even the 80%, if you're basing that off of what would be the total amount of electricity that is used on the average, because at the top of page 4, to be a very specific site with that, they do reference on the average, let's call it $10 million per year. It's varied a bit, but and of course it includes 2020, of which was a different year than usual, but it's been about $10 million a year between the last several years. And so that 80% savings should be closer to about $8 million, except that the part that is kind of missing from this study, it only goes into cost of what it would take to achieve this, not in the time frames of what it would take to do so. And also, let's face reality here a little bit, that there has never been a major infrastructure project, at the very least in our area, that I've been totally aware of. And I would have to imagine that this would make some kind of headlines of becoming in on time and at or possibly even under budget. It's just simply not a factor of it. So sure, if this can be realized, I would think that we could potentially have that. But I tell you what, we got to end up taking that break right now. So we'll talk further about this. But as a caller reminded me here, so I got to take that top of the hour break. So we'll be back right after this with more here at Talk El Paso on News Radio 690 KTSM. So those phone lines, of course, 915-544-5876. Back in a minute.
News on the hour and a half. Traffic and weather all day. News Radio 690 is KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeart radio station.
NBC News Radio, I'm Brian Shook. The head of Homeland Security is on the southern border meeting with Customs and Border Patrol agents in Texas ahead of next week's end of Title 42.
The border is not open. It has not been open, and it will not be open subsequent to May 11th.
Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas says there is an agreement to surge resources to several Central American nations as a way to prevent people from making the journey north. President Biden is praising the latest jobs report. The economy added 253,000 jobs last month, beating estimates by more than 60,000. He attributed the strong jobs report to billions of dollars of private sector investment. The president, during a cabinet meeting, argued House Republicans are threatening to undo his administration's economic progress by demanding deep spending cuts in exchange to raise the debt limit. The World Health Organization says COVID-19 is no longer a global health emergency. The pandemic was discussed by the WHO's International Health Regulations Emergency Committee on Thursday, and Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus agreed the public health emergency of international concern should be over. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis says Disney's self-government is over. Rick Hoschel has more.
DeSantis signed a bill into law that will void the theme parks development agreements approved by its previous oversight board. This is the Republican governor's latest move in an ongoing feud with the Walt Disney Corporation. The back and forth between the state of Florida and Disney started last year. That's when the company publicly spoke out against a law restricting discussions of sexual orientation in public schools between grades K through 3rd. I'm Rick Hoschel.
NBA legend Shaquille O'Neal is joining a group looking to buy BET Media. You're listening to the latest from NBC News Radio. Musician Ed Sheeran says he's glad he won the copyright infringement case, and it's now behind him. Lisa G. reports.
On the Elvis Duran Morning Show, Sheeran says he knew he had a fight after being accused of copying Marvin Gaye's Let's Get It On song.
It's about heart and integrity, and that's why I fought it. I can't be accused of something that I didn't do.
Sheeran says it's never nice with someone losing and someone else winning, but he knows he did the right thing. He added he fell asleep Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern from the adrenaline come down after the verdict, and that he needed to go to bed.
Some folks on Long Island continue to protest controversial Congressman George Santos. Residents gathered at Village Hall in Farmingdale Thursday afternoon to speak out against the 3rd District representative. The Republican held some private meetings and met with constituents during office hours. Santos is under investigation for numerous things after admitting to lying about his life story. The 147th annual Westminster Kennel Club Dog Show kicks off Monday in New York City. Kristen Marks reports.
Thousands of dogs representing more than 200 breeds will compete in breed and group judging Monday and Tuesday before the event wraps up with the ultimate prize of Best in Show. It'll all take place at the USTA Billie Jean King National Tennis Center in Flushing. It's the first time the show will be held at the home of the U.S. Open. It was held at Madison Square Garden for decades before it was moved to an outdoor setting in Westchester County for a couple of years due to the pandemic.
Live Nation is set to offer up $25 tickets with their Concert Week promotion. Sales begin at 10 a.m. next Wednesday, May 10th, and run through the 16th while supplies last. Fans will be able to filter concert and event searches by participating locations and venues once the sales go online. Brian Shook, NBC News Radio.
Now, your chance to win $1,000. Enter this nationwide keyword on our website. Happy. That's happy. Enter it now.
This report is sponsored by the Truth with Lisa Booth podcast.
Bud Light recently came under fire for partnering with transgender influencer Dylan Mulvaney. Will Hill, the executive director of Consumers Research, joins me on The Truth with Lisa Booth. And listen to The Truth with Lisa Booth every Monday and Thursday, but you can listen throughout the week on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
iHeartRadio Earth is here with a new way to enjoy our beautiful planet. Reduce your impact on the environment this fall by packing a waste-free lunch for school or work. Avoid foods with excessive packaging. Use reusable cutlery, napkins, cups, bags, and containers, and recycle or compost any waste when possible. Brought to you by iHeartRadio Earth and the National Environmental Education Foundation. To find more tips for smarter, sustainable living, or to take action in your own community, go to iHeartRadio.com/Earth.
Find dinner inspiration and stream BarbeQuest at beeflovingtexans.com.
This report is sponsored by the Truth with Lisa Booth podcast.
Bud Light recently came under fire for partnering with transgender influencer Dylan Mulvaney. Will Hill, the executive director of consumers research, joins me on The Truth with Lisa Booth. And listen to The Truth with Lisa Booth every Monday and Thursday, but you can listen throughout the week on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey, let's force the city to buy the electric company for $8 billion.
It costs 8 times more than El Paso's budget.
Yeah.
Property taxes would skyrocket. That's an awful idea.
That's Prop K. And that's not all. Prop K shuts off water at some gas stations.
That's crazy. No bathrooms or water to stop a fire?
Small price to pay to stop pollution.
But the Environmental Protection Agency said most of El Paso's pollution comes from international sources, not us.
Let's pass it anyway.
Even if it means raising everyone's electric bills and property taxes and cutting police and firefighters?
Now you get it.
This is the worst idea ever. Who wrote this?
My neighbors did.
How can you call yourself an El Pasoan?
I don't. I'm from Austin.
Austin wrote it. Only El Paso can stop it. On May 6th, vote no on Prop K, the worst idea in El Paso history. Political ad paid for by El Pasoans for Prosperity PAC.
An orthopedic surgeon makes understanding pain painless.
It's the biggest frustration that patients have.
This is Dr. Pamela Mehta talking about aches with unexpected origins.
I see patients with pain in their knees, their hips, their back. Oftentimes, the pain is actually coming from their feet.
Bet they aren't expecting to hear that.
Those patients are super surprised. They can't believe that the pain in their knee isn't coming from actually inside the knee. But if you think about it, the feet are the base to your whole body.
That's why she suggests personally fit arch supports. Emphasis on the personal fit.
If you get something basing it just on your shoe size, it isn't going to fit you properly.
And if it doesn't fit well, it probably won't work well.
Go get arch supports fitted to you. It's as easy as going into a Good Feet store.
You heard the doctor. Try Good Feet for yourself with a free fitting and test walk. Learn more at goodfeet.com.
Airway Boulevard at I-10.
No, not now. That sounds like it's going to cost you.
I know what to do. I'm going to cashnetusa.com. I can apply in minutes, get an instant decision, and if approved, I could have the money in my account as soon as the same business day.
When you need money fast, be the hero. Go to cashnetusa.com to apply for the money you need now. The exact timing as to when your loan funds will be available will be determined by your banking institution.
A catalytic converter is an important component of your car's exhaust system. It's a total catastrophe if your catalytic converter is stolen. Park in well-lit areas, install a protective device, or etch on your VIN number. Learn more at lockitdowntx.com. Brought to you by the Insurance Council of Texas and the Motor Vehicle Crime Prevention Authority.
At El Paso Electric, we're working to meet our goal of providing 100% carbon-free energy by 2045. By next year, we'll double our renewable energy resources. In 2 years, we'll more than triple it. In 3 years, our solar output will increase almost 8 times. We're already 50% carbon-free in 2023, but there's more work to do. Because a clean energy future is more than a goal. It's a reality we're working towards every day. Visit epelectric.com/clean energy to see our plan.
This week on Red Pilled America, should artificial intelligence be stopped? To find the answer, we speak to an AI expert who tells us where AI is going. Listen to Red Pilled America on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere you get podcasts. That's Red Pilled America.
Only iHeartRadio gives you access to all of your favorite radio stations.
Rover's Morning Glory.
It's The Woody Show.
It's Elliot in the Morning.
All of the once-in-a-lifetime events.
iHeartRadio Music Festival.
All of the best free curated playlists. It's everything that rocks. All of the great podcasts for every interest.
This is Freddie Prinze Jr. from the Wrestling with Freddie podcast.
All of the mind-blowing contests.
$20,000.
Awesome. All of your favorite superstars.
This is Dave Grohl from the Foo Fighters.
Best of all, it doesn't cost a thing. Download the absolutely free iHeartRadio app now.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages. We're up on these days, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, either under Talk El Paso or Andrew J. Polk. Let it never be said that I'm not willing to engage in the discussion as long as it actually is a discussion, or we run into like the end of the hours there. Because, yeah, if you actually want to like have a back and forth, make sure we're on the same kind of understanding. And I mean, as much as possible, I cite my sources on these kind of things. So if you're just saying, well, is this true or not, and you can't cite me a source, that's what's going to lead me to pause. Among other things, or just say, crunch the numbers or something like that. It comes along to, well, do your own research kind of thing. So, I mean, there's plenty of things that can be pointed out explicitly. But a little bit dubious, particularly when you're saying that, well, it's just all that way and it just happens to entirely support. Reality is often more complicated than any one ideology can encompass, which is why I tend to evaluate all the positions based on their merit and not by who's just saying them. Anyway, let's go back to those phone lines now. Of course, that number to do so, if you want to squeeze on the line, and we will be taking more calls this hour, I promise, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We do have Tom in Otero County on the line with us right now. Tom, thanks for joining us.
Hey, how's it going there, Andrew?
Doing all right there. What's on your mind?
Hey, have you ever seen the big solar power facility in Otero County that El Paso Electric has?
I have been, not to the one necessarily up there. I've seen the one that they have out, and I think they got bigger ones now, towards Santa Teresa. Flew over it in a helicopter. I got some footage that maybe I'll try to pull out. So I know that I've seen some of them.
Yeah, when you go over in an airliner, it looks like a great big lake or something, you know?
Yeah. I mean, it's reflective, similar like water. I can see that.
Yeah, but God, it must be 40 acres, and looks like there's 1,000 panels, and they're about the size of maybe half the size of a house, each one of them. You know.
Okay.
It really blew my mind when I first saw it. Wow, you know, that's not really why I called it. In reference to the border crisis, I think we have to have a little more faith in the Biden administration.
Okay.
I'm sure they'll handle it just like they did the Afghanistan withdrawal, Chinese spy balloon, inflation, and maybe Hunter Biden's laptop. So, fear not, my friend.
I'm gonna say I'm detecting maybe just a little bit of facetiousness there.
Can't fool Andrew, huh? Can't put one over on you, buddy. Anyway, you have a good day, huh?
Yeah, you too as well.
Nice weekend.
Appreciate the point of the call. You have a good one there as well.
Bye-bye.
Right. So, yeah, we're going to get through more calls today. Again, keep that number handy, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Yeah. And if you disagree with me, you're welcome to disagree with me on any particular point. I mean, there's the whole point of discussion. This is not a sermon. I am certainly not a preacher. And I mean, my word is certainly not gospel in any way. But if you're just going to say, well, I disagree with you, therefore you're bad, good luck with that, both here and in life. Anyway, back to those phone lines now. We do have Luis down in Sleda on the line with us right now. Luis, thanks for joining us.
Hey, good afternoon, Andrew. Thank you for taking my call.
Yeah, sure thing. What's on your mind?
Hey, that was pretty awesome with Eric. I hope it passes. Let's see what happens on Monday. Hey, listen, but the reason I was calling is poor Andrew just told you a big whopper that we have open borders. Border Patrol personnel were up in Congress not too long ago being questioned about the fentanyl and about the border situation. And they're saying that they're still enforcing the Border Patrol agents. Do you remember that?
I mean, I've talked with some in our local area. I don't think I maybe saw.
YouTube it, buddy. YouTube it. They were in Congress. I know that some people think going to Congress is naive, but they were under oath questioned.
I mean, yeah, and I've been saying all this time that there are definably enforcement efforts. I mean, if Border Patrol didn't exist, if CBP was not a thing and there were no enforcement mechanisms overall, that would be, I mean, it's
a big word for two letters, Andrew. And it's not against you. It's just that it's tiresome that we have open borders and blaming the Biden administration. We don't have open borders, Andrew. We don't.
I mean,
we have laws.
I'll
and
agree.
unfortunately,
Yeah,
now,
certainly.
Unfortunately or unfortunately, however you see it, these people that come have a right to come and ask for asylum and get their due process. If our Congress, let's say it like this, I usually throw it at the Republicans. They don't want to do anything about it because it's a big money maker for them and all that stuff. Let's say the word Congress, so they're happy. If our Congress would work together and work on this situation, it could be resolved. I appreciate the Biden administration having doing what they're doing with their whatever it is they're doing, because I'm not in that situation. But it's just getting tiresome that we have open borders. You know what I mean, Andrew?
No, I do get what you mean. And I mean, okay, so the people who say open borders, I do technically disagree with them, because I mean, there have been points in the history of this country when there was no border enforcement. I mean, it was, I think a caller yesterday referenced it, when someone just kind of came across and they were here now. And that was the way that it was. That is not the current situation we exist. And frankly, I mean, I think the people who say open borders and make those points about it are wanting to say we don't have control, so whatever we do have isn't working, therefore it is effectively as such. And I get that they're making a point about it and they're frustrated. I don't think anyone reasonably would say that what is happening right now is working well in kind of any definition of that phrase. But yeah, I do.
Down with you, bro. Down with you, Andrew. I'm glad they caught these YouTubers who are sending up all this nonsense. I'm hoping Fox News can settle it down a little bit and actually help instead of just adding more gas to the fire. You know, I would hate to be in these people's situation, but, I understand that, but there's no open borders.
I mean, again, I'll agree with you on that point on the technical definition, but I do think that there needs to be a lot more done with it, because the situation, however you end up labeling it or describing it, ain't a great one.
Well, it could be, it may not be great, but these are the laws that these people have. So they're taking advantage of it. And I don't mean it in an evil way. They're just taking advantage of it. They're all not going to get approved.
Certainly.
And you can correct me on this, maybe 3 or 4%. The rest will go home. Am I wrong from your numbers? Because you got the numbers there with your local media friends. Is that not correct, or is that a total lie?
In our local area, it may not be 3 or 4% total approvals, but and the numbers actually reference on this one is out of the TRAC project, TRAC, out of Syracuse University. They do a good job of encapsulating this in a whole lot of different ways, and specifically in the local immigration courts, the ones based for the El Paso sector for CBP and Border Patrol, it's an upwards of 90% denial rate. So this is not a good place to have your case come if you are seeking to get asylum approved. There are different sectors of the border that have better rates if you are truly seeking to get approved. But yeah, in our sector, in our area, I think the most recent numbers are maybe not through this current year or even just the previous one, but for recent-ish years, this has not been a good place for that to actually successfully go through.
Okay, and I don't mean that in thank God they can't cross. Just thank God I'm not lying.
Yeah.
Anyway. That's all I wanted to tell you, Andrew. I hope you have a great Cinco de Mayo. My next debate is whether it's going to be Dos Equis or Modelo.
Well, that's a good problem to have in your life there. I hope so. I hope you come to a successful conclusion.
You have a great weekend, Andrew.
You too as well. I appreciate that. Have a good one there as well.
Take care. Bye.
All right, and with that, let's get back on track with these breaks and take that next break. So again, if you want to get on the line, add your 2 cents. That number to call is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
On Loop 375 northbound at Pebble Hills, a crash involving 2 vehicles stopped in the right lane. Stay to the left to get by that. Expect delays. I-10 eastbound at McRae, a stalled vehicle is stopped in the left lane. Expect delays there. I-10 westbound from McRae to the Patriot. 15-minute delays right now, and an accident reported southbound Mesa Street at Wrestler. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
How could $1,000 change your life?
I could buy eggs.
Then listen for inflation compensation. Your chance to win $1,000 to combat high prices.
Honey, we're going to have eggs.
Yes! It's excellent. Be listening for your chance to win $1,000 with inflation compensation.
Listen for your chance to win $1,000 every hour, 9 a through 5 p. with the inflation compensation on News Radio 690 AM. Brought to you by Charlie Clark Nissan and Charlie Clark Infinity of El Paso.
This report is sponsored by the Tudor Dixon Podcast.
Coming up on the next episode of the Tudor Dixon Podcast, Kyle Olson joins the show to talk about the madness at Michigan State University. Banned words? Are our kids too sensitive? Be sure to catch new episodes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Okay, so we have the car payment, the rent, utilities,
and the repair bill.
What should we do?
I know. I'm going to CashNetUSA.com. I can apply in minutes, get an instant decision, and if approved, we could have the money in our account as soon as the same business day.
When you need money fast, be the hero. Go to CashNetUSA.com to apply for the money you need now. The exact timing as to when your loan funds will be available will be determined by your banking institution.
A catalytic converter is an important component of your car's exhaust system. They can cost several $1,000s to replace. Cats can be removed in under a minute and have a high scrap value. Keep your vehicle safe from cat burglars. Park in well-lit areas. Install a protective device. Have your VIN number etched onto your catalytic converter. It's a total catastrophe. If your catalytic converter is stolen, lock it down. Learn more at lockitdowntx.com. Brought to you by the Insurance Council of Texas and the Motor Vehicle Crime Prevention Authority.
I realized that I had depression when everything was going great for me, professionally, creatively, in my relationship, but I was on the cusp of tears with even the simplest of tasks. It wasn't an event that made me sad, it was just being. Then I found out that over 350 million people around the world are affected by depression. It's time we talk about mental health. Go to iHeartRadio.com/talk for tips on how to start the conversation. This has been brought to you by NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness, and iHeartMedia.
Cashback is not available on gas in New Jersey and Wisconsin.
Susan, I'm sorry I'm late. Traffic is terrible.
It sure is. But on top of that, gas prices have been skyrocketing. I can't believe how expensive gas has gotten recently.
Prices at the pump are up, but I never pay full price for gas anymore. I just use the free Upside app that pays you cash back for every gallon of gas you buy.
Wait a minute. Are you saying you actually get paid cash when you buy gas with the Upside app?
Yes, I get real cash back every time I buy gas.
And does that actually add up to anything?
I've made around $200.
Wow, that's serious extra cash. I'm downloading the free Upside app now.
Download the free Upside app to earn real cash back every time you buy gas. Use promo code LUCK for an extra 25 cents per gallon cash back on your first fill-up. You can cash out anytime right to your bank account, to PayPal, or an e-gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Upside app and use promo code LUCK for a 25 cents per gallon bonus on your first tank. That's code LUCK for 25 cents per gallon cash back on your first fill-up.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, either under Talk El Paso or Andrew J. Polk. A lot of other comments coming in, those dropping those likes and reacts as well. Most recently, James Ratcliffe, Ricardo Vasquez, Stephen Christopher, Bernadette Bandicol, and then Flaco Jimenez, Robbie Flores, Monica Cervantes, James Holmes, and if I'm not mistaken, don't want to make sure to leave anyone out, Amber Banda there as well. So appreciate you all tuning in, chiming in, adding your 2 cents. A lot of comments coming in, particularly on the whole open borders thing. I mean, I've said this previously, and I stand by what I've said, that saying that, close the border or that we have open borders. I mean, these are technical phrases that have deep meanings behind them. If you're dissatisfied with the way it's being done right now, I mean, I certainly get that. I mean, we are certainly seeing a lot of impacts in our immediate area from not great situations, and this is only ramping up towards next Thursday. I am going to be very surprised if we get to many other subjects besides immigration and border security ahead of next Thursday. probably in a decent span following that. I mean, among other things coming out today, that those 1,500 troops that are being deployed by the Biden administration to deal with the support for the border situation is going to be deployed specifically here to El Paso, and then maybe doing other stationed in El Paso, maybe deployed to other segments around it, but they're seeing a whole lot of the resources putting here, and kind of some of these frustrations. Ben Tritosak saying, what is the difference between having quote-unquote open borders and the number of migrants flooding our borders due to laws not being enforced? It's the same thing, might as well be open borders. And that's the frustration that I certainly get. There being not enough resource, and I've constantly been calling for more resources, more investment, more technology that certainly should and can be deployed here, but again, we often see loggerheads in the legislature and keep coming around to the fact that, new, more responsive immigration laws haven't been passed. And this one I'm confident of saying in my lifetime. So there are problems. Yeah. I think a lot of people get hung up on the terminology, but I think that there are certainly problems with this. So let's go ahead and get back to those phone lines now. Again, that number to call is 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. And we also have a Pat Mack over on the Facebook, a comment a little bit too long to show up, but disagreeing with the previous caller, saying that the reality is that people can disappear into the interior and they're not heard from again. They will reappear when amnesty talk, and that is also doesn't include the ones that do sneak through. And of course, we have seen the changes that we've seen. There has been a increasing prevalence over the last few years, and certainly culminating now, or maybe I think it probably peaked probably in 2019, earlier parts of 2020, of those asking for asylum as opposed to doing any of these other methods. I mean, look at the holding cells, and the way that they were constructed was for completely different patterns of migration. And so that's part of why it's a demonstration of how much things have changed. But other commentary going on, because we're talking about a whole lot of other things, including Ricardo Figueroa saying, once China and India stop making so much pollution, then I will vote for Proposition K. I mean, there's some global conversations going on with that. Though, again, I contend that if there are good ideas as part of it, because most of the people I've heard from, I mean, sure, there are those that are steadfastly against it. There are also those that are completely against anything the city is proposing, which it's a position you can take, but that there are maybe good ideas in it, but not sure about the whole package. And that's why I think I'll be interested if, as some of the fortune telling is saying, that this is going to fail, if there couldn't be parts of this that could move through on their own. Because, I mean, if there can be cost saving seen, then why not go through it? And also, again, as I pretty much cite my sources whenever possible, the part that I was citing from the actual, again, year out energy plan that you can see for yourself, elpasotexas.gov/EP charter. And then you just have to go to the cost estimates, the financial impact part of it. And then on the bottom, or actually top of page 4 of it, it goes through the total amount of energy costs there, and specifically the electricity costs here, averaging about $9.8 million per year. The total energy cost did average about $11 million, but that does include natural gas, of which is not included in the cost. I mean, it makes it explicit that other infrastructure changes are not accounted for in these studies. So, yeah. Want to come at me, best come correct. Anyway, let's go back to those phone lines now. Full up at the moment, but just keep that number handy, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We do have Mary on the west side on the line with us right now. Mary, thanks for joining us.
Hello, Andrew. Thank you for taking my call.
Sure thing. What's on your mind?
I've been wanting to call for a long time, but when your show's on, I'm driving, so I'm not driving right now. In my opinion, the number one job for a president to do is to protect Americans. And I don't think that Biden has stepped up to the plate there. And in my opinion, I honestly believe that he ought to be impeached for getting rid of our safety, letting all the illegal immigrants in. By the time he's done, it'll be like 15 million. Who knows where they've come from? Who knows what diseases they brought? The fentanyl, all of that, just on that one thing. I mean, we can bring in other things like the China and all of that, but just on that one issue, I honestly believe that he ought to be impeached. What do you think?
I think that those efforts have been hinted at in the national legislature. I mean, once we saw the midterm election and the shift of power, particularly, within Congress, the House of Representatives, that was talked about. I haven't seen any substantive efforts really move forward with that. I mean, we're in all of these other fights in the meantime. I mean, well, with the debt ceiling taking on a lot of air out of the room there right now, and other investigations. I mean, Mayorkas has been probably more consistently of a punching bag in terms of congressional hearings and investigations lately. So I guess I haven't seen any real specific efforts towards that in the legislature so far this term, though. I mean, given the rhetoric that happened before the election and about how this would be a focus, I guess technically there is still time for it to go to until we get through to the election in 2024.
Do you think he ought to be impeached yourself?
That's a difficult one because I often, look at the policies, look at the impacts on them. I'm not going to call it doing a great job right now. Whether this has risen to the level of high crimes and misdemeanors is, I'll be honest, I'm not sure it reaches that just yet. But I know that there's a lot more talk about other types of investigations and looking at specific malfeasance that is being asked for. So based on those, I'd be willing to maybe go a little bit closer to that specific declaration.
If I could ask you one more question.
Sure thing.
I'll make a statement first, and then I'll ask. So in my opinion, in my lifetime, all right, many presidents, thanks to God. I want to say that I believe, honestly, just truthfully, that this Biden is probably the worst president that I've ever seen in my entire life. I mean, you could look at the economy, the borders, the drugs, the list goes on, the gas, the Afghanistan, just the economy by itself, just the list goes on. I've never in my lifetime seen such a horrendous situation, and I wake up every morning terrified, to be honest with you, afraid that this guy's going to get us into Taiwan, World War III. What do you think about that in terms of him being the worst president in your lifetime? Do you agree with that?
I'll tell you what, I am positive that whoever ends up being the Republican nominee for president, that those are pretty much the exact lines that are going to be used in the campaign and in the lead up to the election of it. I mean, I don't know. There's been a lot of punching bags in my lifetime when it comes to presidents. I would say that it feels like we're in some pretty concrete issues. And on that last one, specifically, Taiwan as being the draw-in into it, I mean, there's been a whole lot of saber rattling and back and forth. We have some callers that are more focused on that than others that have, and it's one that I do study. I don't often bring it up on this program because it's not part of our regular purview with the El Paso-based issues, but I will say that Taiwan, the possibilities there, I think that Ukraine and frankly the performance of what is going on in the resistance to Russia there is very much going to determine what ends up happening with Taiwan, not necessarily as a if Ukraine falls to Russia, therefore they will be invaded, but I mean, if it can be proven that a major regional power can be beaten back by a minor one or one that has much less territory, those kind of things, it might give pause. And also if there's like a laxity, frankly, a wavering of support from the Western powers in this and what has become basically a proxy industrial warfare type situation, that's very much, I think, what strategists on both sides of any potential future major, near peer or peer-to-peer conflict are looking at. So to your core question, is it the worst one ever? I don't know. I like looking through the lens of history, and it's definitely way too soon to tell it. I will say that particularly in our area, we are facing a lot of issues and ones that, if not addressed very carefully and very specifically, I don't think we're going to be reaping much rewards, and much the opposite.
Yes, I totally agree. And I just pray for America. May God save us.
Yeah, certainly agree with you on that point.
Until, to be honest with you, until Trump comes back. All right. I don't want to kill it for that, but I'm just talking the truth. Anyway, I appreciate your time, and I thank you very much for listening.
Yeah, sure thing. Thanks for the point in the call. Do appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye.
All right. And with that, we'll go ahead and take that next break right now. Coming out of this break, we got more calls. We got more comments. We haven't gotten to all of them there, but if you want to get on that line, of course, the number to do so is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, everyone. This is Robert Olguin with your KFOX 14 news update. 3 different organizations are teaming up to provide access to clinical health care to migrants who are living on El Paso streets. The collaboration is between Doctors of the World, USA, Texas Tech University Health Sciences Center, El Paso, and the Annunciation House. At a news conference, officials said there are about 2,500 migrants on the streets of El Paso currently. Officials say that the healthcare services are limited at this time and that they only have capacity for about 10 visits per week, but they're hoping to expand that. Meantime, the city of El Paso will get more than $12 million in federal funding that'll go toward emergency food and shelter for the migrants. Congresswoman Veronica Escobar made that announcement today. The money is coming from the Emergency Food and Shelter Program. El Paso is among 35 local governments that are getting a total of $300 million in federal funding. This has been your KFOX 14 News Update. I'm Robert Olguin.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
An earlier crash on Loop 375 Memorial Highway at the Pebble Hills on-ramp is still blocking the right lane. Brief stop-and-go traffic with delays there. I-10 westbound is slow in general from McRae to the Patriot, 15-minute delay. I-10 eastbound from Trans Mountain over to the 54 Patriot is a 6-minute delay. And I-10 eastbound at McRae, an earlier disabled vehicle has been moved off to the right shoulder. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Montgomery. Nice one as we go into our Friday night. Once the sun goes down, we're going to see temperatures drop overnight into the 40s to 50s for your Saturday morning. So also a nice start for our Saturday morning. Partly cloudy, breezy, highs around 87 for tomorrow. We'll see mostly sunny skies, just breezy conditions for our Sunday, a little hotter with high around 89 degrees. From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Montgomery.
This report is sponsored by Indeed.com. Need to hire? Need Indeed. Their hiring platform makes it easy to attract, interview, and hire candidates in one place. Sponsor a job and immediately get a short list of quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job description. Visit Indeed.com/credit.
You know it's not okay? Prop K. It's not okay for taxpayers to lose billions in revenue. It's not okay for El Pasoans to lose thousands of jobs. And it's not okay to cause damage to our economy. On May 6th, let them know none of this is okay by voting no way on Prop K.
For the local issues and discussion you won't get anywhere else, turn to Talk El Paso. Weekdays at 4 right here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Brought to you in part by the El Paso Community Foundation. Sound off on what matters to you. Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m. And let's talk El Paso.
Your mom has been there for you your entire life. From teaching you the ABCs to celebrating your first promotion. This Mother's Day, give her a gift that's worthy of her lifetime commitment to you. Rosetta Stone's Lifetime Unlimited subscription is the perfect present for all moms, whether they love to travel or are an empty nester who's looking for a new hobby. Give her forever access to 25 languages for 40% off. Now through May 14th. At rosettastone.com.
This week on Red Pilled America, should artificial intelligence be stopped? To find the answer, we speak to an AI expert who tells us where AI is going. Listen to Red Pilled America on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere you get podcasts. That's Red Pilled America.
This report is sponsored by Red Pilled America.
Hey, hon, what you doing with your phone?
Do flowers have best friends?
I don't know.
Hey, look.
Whoa.
Some answers can only be found in nature. Discover the unsearchable. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a trail near you. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Always just minutes away from the latest news around town and around the world.
You need to know what's going on.
News Radio 690 KTSM. El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, and joining us over on the various social media pages, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, either under Talk El Paso or Andrew J. Polk. And a lot of ways you can chime in here. Just, if you're going to come for me, you best come correct. Like when we're literally quoting out and reading out studies that I gave you the sources and the numbers for, and you saying that I'm wrong when I can verify it. Again, just good luck to you at this point in life, because you can fool some of the people some of the time, all the people some of the times. I forget the full quote, but you're not going to fool all the people all the time, and I'm definitely ain't one of them. So again, you want to actually come at me, you best have an argument behind you here besides just, you're wrong, I don't like you. Because if this was based on how much people liked me or not, I can't imagine I would have been doing this for very long. I'm here for the discussion and here to talk about what the things are that affect us here in the borderland, and of course for Friday, Free for All Friday beyond. So again, good luck. Let's go get to those phone lines now. 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We do have John on the east side of the line with us right now. John, thanks for joining us.
Hey there.
Hey there. What's on your mind?
Well, 2 or 3 things. Number one, there's no such thing as free money.
Sure.
The federal government collected that from us to begin with, and then they're just going to give it right back to us. I mean, they make it sound like Veronica Escobar earned it and gave it back to us.
I mean, yeah, no free lunch. The whole idea that even if we're talking about, it's taxpayer funded, and even the idea of, federal funding coming eventually from and essentially from taxpayer funds in the first place. So yeah, no free lunch. Where is it coming from? And what is the, opportunity cost that come along with it is persuasive thinking in my mind.
Now, the other thing is the pronunciation of fentanyl. Everybody's saying fentanyl, and it's not pronounced that way.
With the hard L, you're saying there?
Well, there's a Y at the end of the,
that's
it's
true.
not a null. Fentanyl.
It's true. I mean, I guess I don't have too much quibble with people as long as we're all clear. There's not a phrase that's similar to it that I think it's getting confused for anyway.
Yeah, it's just like the way Bush used to pronounce nuclear.
Fair enough. Okay.
Now, one final thing, and that is there is way too much going on with regard to this open border. It should be a simple thing to close it and stop lying about it. Every time I see Biden's mouth move on TV, it's to tell a lie.
I mean, yeah, there's the old joke, how do you know a politician is lying? Their mouth is moving. But I guess I would not agree with you entirely on the idea that this would be simple to do because, I mean, even in our immediate area, I mean, yeah, we had callers previously in this show and I've spoken with personally people who have seen it. Haven't seen it myself, even the times I've been driving along, say, the border highway down towards Sledaway. But yeah, they've heard of, and from people I do trust and can verify it with them, about there being parts of it being open as they're essentially described as a pressure relief valve, because I don't care how big and beautiful a physical barrier is, we start talking about tens of thousands of people that are interested in being across it, whether it be a permissibility of law that they are expecting or anticipating, whether it's coming from, true or false information. I will say that as part of some of the information from our news partners at KFOX 14 and some of the national and even, I guess, technically international reporting on this, Mexican Foreign Affairs Secretary Marcelo Ebrard actually echoed what Mayorkas was saying, quote, "We're seeing a very significant flow of migrants in recent days on the basis of a hoax." Basically saying that they are being told, hurry up to get to the United States by crossing Mexico because on May 11th, they're going to end Title 42. It's a trick and they're at risk, Ebrard said. So there's a lot of, I've referred to this as mimetic warfare, of which we've seen some specific instances of when there were either protests or maybe potentially mass crossings, depending on how you describe it, along the ports of entry already, even before we got to this month in the recent days. So we've been seeing a lot of pressures on this. And again, I'm not sure if there would be any beyond overkill system that would be able to handle that potential at this point in time. So most of the efforts I'm seeing have been lending itself towards, at least in my analysis, towards relieving of pressure, relieving of the situation, because it could be very dangerous for everyone involved. You just get masses of humanity in one place that have a specific and potentially incorrect idea in mind. Riots, stampedes, and worse have happened.
Well, the other thing that I wanted to mention is this Title 42.
No, certainly.
It doesn't have to expire. They can make it a permanent part, because we should not be accepting anybody that is coming from a country that has disease.
So, I mean, the whole Title 42 situation, well, part of the problem is that it is policy based on the whole pandemic declarations that were made, but it's not law. It is not something that was passed by both houses, both chambers, and then sent to the president's desk to sign. It's something that was done, well, basically in the absence of a law. And that's kind of one of the core issues here. It's not the main one, but it's certainly like, you stack up the bricks of awfulness that has gotten to us here and down that whole primrose path kind of thing. And the fact that there hasn't been, responsive, changes to law and policy in decades is definitely a part of the path of how we got here.
Yep. Well, thank you for having me on a Friday.
Yeah, sure thing. Thank you for the point in the call. Do appreciate it.
You bet. Bye-bye.
All right, we'll squeeze in what we can before the end of the show here. Getting towards the end, but we'll squeeze in what we can before we have to take that last break. We do have Nate on the east side with us right now. Nate, thanks for joining us.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Andrew, and God bless you for your show and all you continue to do. I can't ever think of what we do without this program, so whatever it takes, let's keep it going, okay?
I appreciate that.
Yes, sir. What I want to say, too, is just a real quick announcement for a public event that's going on that I'm involved with. I want to encourage everyone that is listening to at least check into it and see if you can participate on the 27th of May at 7 o'clock. The gates of the Fort Bliss National Cemetery opens. I'm happy to coordinate all the volunteers that come out, and we place a headstone, and this year, hopefully, a rose for every gravesite on that cemetery. And that equals a sum of about approximately 45,000 plus or minus there. And we do that task in about 2 hours or so. And that's due to the grace and kindness of so many wonderful people who see the vision of what this country is all made of. We don't forget. And I know amongst all the turbulence and ups and downs and things, we need to stay focused on some of these things, because that's where we find our cause is like a family. A family has certain rules and guidelines that keep that family together. When it becomes dysfunctional, that mother and father often choose to do a divorce, even if they got beautiful kids and all these beautiful homes and limousines and everything else and money. But they say, let's cut ties and split. We don't want that to happen in our country. So those that see the vision, keep on keeping on and stay strong and let's forge forward. Okay. And again, thank you, Andrew, for all you do and those who contribute to this radio program.
No, well, thank you very much for that, and thank you for talking about it. I think you mentioned it at least once in recent weeks, but yeah, we got Memorial Day coming up at the end of this month. It'll be celebrated on, of course, the 29th, but you're talking about that Saturday, the 27th, to go on out and do the decoration of the grave, so it will be in place then for that Monday.
Yes, sir. And of course, attend the memorial too if you can on the Memorial Action Day. But it's a good thing to do to come out and see the community of El Paso work together, all races, families, children. It's just a beautiful thing to see.
Absolutely. So, what time is that going to be happening again at Fort Bliss National Cemetery?
The gates open at 7 to allow people in. The event I will start as the MC at 800 hours at 8 a.m. in the morning. Takes about 30 minutes, and we'll get started.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for sharing that, and also, of course, the importance of the message and why we do and why we still commemorate Memorial Day even to this day.
Absolutely. Yes, sir. Absolutely.
I appreciate that greatly. So thank you very much for the point in the call. Do appreciate it.
Yes, sir. We'll be back in touch with you.
Absolutely. We'll talk further about that as we get closer to that, I'm sure, here. And I think we got time for one more quick call on the line here. This is one of those situations where if you didn't get greeted, you might still get popped up live. So we got a caller on the line right now after a previous one dropped off. So you're live with Talk El Paso. Who's this?
Hey, Andrew, this is Sean over on the west side.
Oh, hey there, Sean. What's on your mind?
Actually, just wasn't even going to really comment about anything going on today around El Paso. I mean, everybody's beating all the subject matter to death, so why throw my 2 cents in?
Fair enough.
I was actually just, I mean, it's all going to come to an end one way or another.
True enough.
I was just going to let you know I shot you an email.
Oh,
and,
yes.
See if you had gotten it. It had to do with radio.
Yes, and so just as because we're on air right now. Yeah, talking about the field day and ham radio events here. Let's just say this has been a complicated set of weeks, so I have received it, so I will be responding to you there.
Trust me, I understand. We'll have to catch up. I'll tell some more stories to you. So anyway, I won't keep you. You have a wonderful weekend, and don't let any of the locals beat you up too bad around here.
I think if anything I've proven on this program, it's that I can hold my own, but I appreciate the thought anyway.
Absolutely, you have. Have a wonderful weekend.
Appreciate it greatly. You have a good one there as well.
Okay, bye-bye.
All right, and with that, we'll go ahead and take that last break right now, come out with some final thoughts, tell you what we're working on for you, even if there's maybe a little bit more speculation than usual, given how next week may or may not progress. Well, I think I have some expectations, but taking that break back after this with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Back in a minute.
I'm Fidel Moreno Mesa with your CBS 4 News Update. Foster families in New Mexico are finally being paid back for expenses that were backlogged for months. The state's Children, Youth, and Families Department is reimbursing more than $210,000 in 950 payments to foster families and providers. The department says it's making it easier for families to get their money back by launching an online portal to make requests. Las Cruces police investigated a homicide for over 12 hours yesterday that happened in a residential neighborhood. Police responded to this scene on Poplar Avenue and North Mesquite in Las Cruces at 4:15 yesterday morning. Police say one man is dead and another is in the hospital in stable condition. Police have not released what led up to the incident. However, the woman renting the home where it happened says someone tried to break into her home and shot the side of her house. For more news headlines, head to our website at cbs4local.com. I'm Fidel Moreno Mesa with your CBS 4 News Update.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
On Loop 375 northbound Memorial Highway at the Pebble Hills on-ramp, that earlier multi-vehicle crash has been moved off to the right shoulder. Still got some brief stop-and-go delays there. 54 northbound at Kenworthy, a stalled truck's blocking the left shoulder. Slow traffic on the 10 westbound McRae to the Patriots, a 10-minute delay. And eastbound Montana is slowing down from McRae to Zaragoza with 13-minute delays. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Red Pilled America. This week on Red Pilled America, should artificial intelligence be stopped? To find the answer, we speak to an AI expert who tells us where AI is going. Listen to Red Pilled America on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere you get podcasts. That's Red Pilled America.
Car crimes are on the rise. Protect yourself and your valuables this holiday season. When you park your car, always lock it down. Never leave keys in your vehicle. Never leave your windows down. Don't leave your valuables in plain sight, or you might return to a terrible sight. Try to park in well-lit areas. And most importantly, always lock it down. Brought to you by the Insurance Council of Texas and the Motor Vehicle Crime Prevention Authority. Learn more at lockitdowntx.com.
At El Paso Electric, we're working to meet our goal of providing 100% carbon-free energy by 2045. By next year, we'll double our renewable energy resources. In 2 years, we'll more than triple it. In 3 years, our solar output will increase almost 8 times. We're already 50% carbon-free in 2023, but there's more work to do. Because a clean energy future is more than a goal. It's a reality we're working towards every day. Visit epelectric.com/clean energy to see our plan.
Cashback is not available on gas in New Jersey and Wisconsin. This is Matt Crowder live at the gas station on 41st Street reporting on those skyrocketing gas prices. Excuse me, miss, are you buying less gas now because of the high prices?
Oh, I never pay full price for gas anymore. I just use the free Upside app that pays you cash back for every gallon of gas you buy.
Wait a minute, are you saying you actually get paid cash when you buy gas with the Upside app?
Yes, I get real cash back every time I buy gas.
Well, does that actually add up to anything?
I've made around $200.
Wow. Well, there you have it. Stop paying full price for gas. Download the free Upside app and get real cash back every time you buy gas. This is Matt Crowder Radio News Network. Download the free Upside app now to earn real cash back every time you buy gas. Use promo code SMILE for an extra 25 cents a gallon bonus on your first tank. You can cash out anytime right to your bank, to PayPal, or any gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Upside app and use promo code SMILE for a 25 cents a gallon bonus on your first tank. That's code SMILE.
Temple Mount Sinai Congregation invites you to the second annual Jewish Food Festival, Saturday, May 6th and Sunday, May 7th at Temple Mount Sinai in El Paso, featuring live entertainment, the jazz of Billy Towns, and klezmer music on Saturday night, and El Paso's Julio Ortiz, and other surprises on Sunday. Don't miss the latke eating contest, belly dancing, face painting for the kids, and much more. Admission is free. Visit TempleMountSinai.com to learn more.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at Facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Just out of time, for this program here. Of course, this is Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM, and I've been your host, Andrew J. Polk. We've covered, maybe less ground than we could have, but more than I expected to, with all the different subjects, as I fully expected this next week as we continue to get closer to, it's election day tomorrow. If you have not voted, know that I expect you to vote if you are at all able to in these very important elections. Again, school boards, the A through K, it's not just Prop K on the ballot, there's A through J on there as well. So please go out, make your voice heard if it's on your ballot, if you have the ability to do so. I know not everyone in our listening area has the ability to vote on these, but I would certainly encourage you to do so if at all possible, because these are important. And I'm fairly confident in saying we're going to hit double-digit turnout for this. But this is still forecasting on my part, and I'm going to be just so sad if we do not at least hit that. Not even just professional reputation, just like personally, as a person who lives here, knowing that we got big. And that's not a huge bar, I got to say. And I know I managed to almost not talk about that for most of the day. It was going to come in. So election day tomorrow, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Make sure you go out and cast your ballot and take everyone with you that you're willing to. I'll just put it that way. But please take a friend. Also, of course, coming up this weekend on the El Paso History Radio Show, 10 to noon here on News Radio 690 KTSM on Saturday, going to be talking about two things. One, an event going on with the Las Cruces Railroad Museum, their transportation days for kids and families, and, of course, the history of transportation in our area and the history they mark. And then also with Concordia Heritage Association about Concordia Cemetery and their upcoming end of the month, the Memorial Day programming that they expect to have. But just on these things, next week for this program is very likely to be a challenging one, given all of the issues that we are looking at, that we are analyzing, and that are just happening in our area. So I firmly expect that immigration and those issues are going to continue to be paramount among them, immigration, border security, etc. So we'll squeeze in what else we can here, but I'm kind of not taking any bets on us getting to many other subjects for the next week. So that's kind of our plan so far. We're going to play it by ear for as long as we can in order to talk about the things that affect us here in the borderland. So that's going to do it for us for today. I want to thank everyone that did tune in, call in, comment, participate in the show. If you actually care about discussing things and not just name calling, this is the right place for you, as we do that every Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m. So until then, until next time, until next week, I want y'all to have a good one. Stay safe out there and have a great weekend. And, of course, look twice for motorcycles when on the road. We'll see you on Monday or on the El Paso History Radio Show. Your choice. Have a great one.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
On Loop 375 northbound Memorial Highway at the Pebble Hills on-ramp, that earlier multi-vehicle crash has been moved off to the right shoulder. Still got some brief stop-and-go delays there. 54 northbound at Kenworthy, a stalled truck's blocking the left shoulder. Slow traffic on the 10 westbound McRae to the Patriots, a 10-minute delay. And eastbound Montana is slowing down from McRae to Zaragoza with 13-minute delays. Gary Edwards, El Paso traffic.
I'm Martin Hoke, the inventor of Navage Nasal Care, and I love Navage. I've told you about how your nose is the body's air filter, that Navage's powered suction will help flush out allergens, viruses, mucus, and germs, and that Navage will help you breathe better. But what do other people say about Navage? Like Tara, quote, "My doctor wanted me to do saline rinses for my allergies, but I've never been able to successfully use a neti pot. Navage uses suction power, so it's foolproof. There are nights when I'll have particularly bothersome allergies. I'll bust it out, and the results are immediate. It's such a relief. It's become a lifesaver," unquote. She's one of over 100,000 online reviews praising Navage, the all-natural solution trusted by over 3 million people to help you breathe better, sleep deeper, snore less, and stay healthier without drugs. Navage is available at Walmart, CVS, Walgreens, Target, Rite Aid, and online. Navage, N-A-V-A-G-E, clean nose, healthy life.
Portions of the following program were pre-recorded.
Getting a news feed on your phone while driving
makes driving more difficult. This is dangerous.
Getting a news feed without a computer or mobile device?
It would be impossible.
Unless, of course, you get your live news feeds at the top and bottom of the hour.
It's easy.
Traffic and weather all day.
It's as simple as that.
Trending stories tend to change.
Every minute of every day.
Twice an hour, we'll feed your curiosity.
Stay informed. Shouldn't we listen? They're hungry.
News Radio
on the hour
690
and the
KTSM. Traffic and weather all day. News Radio 690 is KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeart radio station.
NBC News